Good morning. Or is it? Let's face it, the readings today make us want to skip them and move ahead to one that describes the tender, comforting Jesus, as in last week's gospel. This is one where I said, why me? Why did Father Simon give me this passage to preach on? But hey, by digging deeper prayerfully, I really learned a lot. Let me share what I learned. Jesus' words in Luke's gospel today, and even the Old Testament reading, are harsh, confusing, and uncomfortable to hear. He's talking about not bringing peace, but fire. I feel like he handed me the match. Division. He's on his way to Jerusalem to be baptized not by water, but by crucifixion. He is, as he admits, stressed. They actually use that word, stressed. Perhaps he's getting sick and tired of folks not getting it, what he wants them to hear. He warns his audience that choosing to follow him will cause divisions. Now, his examples are all among families. In Jesus' time, the family was the epitome of essential relationships. To fracture one was the ultimate wound. None of us are immune to fractures in our families, are we? It may help us to identify with what Jesus is getting at by remembering that the author of Luke wrote about events that happened 50 years before him. Each gospel is written to a particular audience. We can guess with some confidence that this passage is speaking to a community that is dealing with divisions of its own. What about Jesus denying that he's bringing peace? There are different kinds of peace, aren't there? Could he be talking about the lack of peace among humans, not the peace beyond all understanding that is God's peace? What about Jesus' talk of bringing fire? There's different kinds of fire also. Purifying fire and destructive fire. The Bible recounts both kinds. Purifying fire is transformative. Is Jesus talking to us today, to our congregation? Who, us? Us at Good Sam? Oh, surely not. By and large, we avoid conflict and division at all costs. But wait, perhaps this isn't necessarily a good thing. Jesus says today about fire, how I wish it were already kindled. Is he trying to light a fire in us? Ask us to take a deeper look at ourselves. I wonder, in our desire to always be nice, are we missing opportunities to discover new and creative ways to help God create the kingdom? It's naive to think we all agree on things. Are we listening to different points of view? They are here. I've heard them. I even have some. Right here at Good Sam. On all sorts of issues. Things like how different ministries are carried out. the use of our buildings and property, who makes decisions and how they're made, who looks at and explores accountability, how we measure success. Do we applaud the happy talk about our ministries and not imagine how they might be even more successful? What fires might Jesus be lighting in us in a good way that we haven't noticed yet? Are we looking for them? Are we listening to all the voices? Do we have the courage to take some risks, to try some different things? It's the job of us as Christians and our job as a congregation to not avoid decisions, but to deal respectfully with differing ideas. This takes courage. It means, as Brené Brown says in her latest book, Dare to Lead, learning to rumble with differing points of view. It takes courage to create opportunities to rumble in a safe, respectful setting. Are we intentionally listening to the variety of views? Can we recognize our attachment to our own agendas and the need to be right? Do we define our territory and build walls around it? I read in preparing, division is not the problem. Perhaps it's our own naive expectation that we have more truth than others. Instead, could God be at work on both sides of an issue? Jesus isn't through with us yet. There's always more to learn. As only one example of the need to rumble, the front page article in the Gazette-Times last week described a situation at First Congregational Church. They've allowed homeless people to camp on their property next to their parking lot. They did this in response to Jesus' commandment to take care of the poor and the sick and those without shelter. Surely, this is the Christian thing to do, isn't it? Unfortunately, there have been unexpected consequences to their hospitality. Criminal behavior, police calls, illegal camping on adjoining property, liability and livability concerns, and so forth. So often our best intentions surprise us with unforeseen consequences. The encouraging part about this article was the gathering of the West Hills Neighborhood Association and the representatives from First Congregational Church, who were willing to rumble with the situation. First Congregational people shared their motivation for the establishment of what they called Safe Camp. Neighbors shared their concerns. An acknowledgement of the concerns, as well as a variety of solutions, were presented. This first rumble won't solve everything, but it's a start. It took courage on everyone's part to begin the conversation. In this Tuesday's Forward Day by Day, the author wrote, Brené Brown also says, humans are hardwired for connection. The author, Kathy Tyndall Boyd, rector of St. Martin's Episcopal Church in Williamsburg, Virginia, went on to say, God creates us to be in relationship and as members of communities of blessing. It's God's intention that relationships endure. It is Jesus' intention that everyone be welcome, and blessed. Yes, relationships break and sometimes end. But it's God's desire that we not be hard-hearted, that we work hard to preserve our unity, and that we welcome one another. It's God's desire to embrace all of us together. How many of you remember when we kept hearing, it takes a village to raise a child? Consider tweaking it to, it takes a parish to carry out our ministries. Good Sam is filled with people with a variety of ideas, gifts, and skills. Are we creating places for all of them to be heard? And all of their ideas, gifts, and skills welcome? Do we have the courage to rumble with the murmurings of new and different ideas? These ideas don't go away. They just surface in different disguises. It takes courage to share our concerns. It takes courage on the part of our leaders to provide opportunities to share and to be open to new ways to move forward. As members of a faith community, it's especially important to invite and include God in these discussions. Where and how might the Holy One guide us to kindle new and creative ways to serve? In closing, let's leave here today asking ourselves, am I ready to welcome and receive the fire Jesus is lighting in me? Are we ready and open to receive the fires Jesus is lighting in our congregation here at Good Sam? Dear Jesus, kindle your fires in us. Amen.